NFL awards have been passed out for the 2024 season. Josh Allen, MVP, and a lot more. Plus, we're making our picks. We're previewing Super Bowl 59 coming at you right now.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there. Let us know that you stopped by. Hit the thumbs up on YouTube. If you're new to the program, welcome. Please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, and obviously it is Super Bowl 59 time, and new customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Just download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we're going to make our official predictions and picks and looking at some of the prop bets and how this game could go with the Chiefs and Eagles in Super Bowl 59. But the NFL takes the opportunity while all eyes are on the NFL preparing for the Super Bowl and everyone's hanging out together, getting ready for the Super Bowl, Radio Row, interviews, people shilling products left and right. And they have the NFL honors as well with all the awards being announced. And, you know, the big one, this one, and we knew it was going to be hotly contested and it was going to be really close between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And it was Josh Allen. Most people thought, Matt, actually, that because the AP All-Pro first team quarterback was Lamar Jackson and second team was Josh Allen, that's the way the MVP voting would go as well. And it was very close, but it was actually Josh Allen. Congratulations to him winning the MVP. It was Lamar Jackson, a resounding second place in that vote. The only problem I have, and I'm fine with it, they were both deserving. They were probably both deserving than anybody was last year. So I have no problem with it, and it was close, as you would expect. The only problem I have is that someone voted. There's one voter that had Josh Allen third, and even worse, there was one voter who had Lamar Jackson fourth in his vote.
I didn't see that part of it. Wow. Interesting. So I have no problem with it. I mean, frankly, I would have loved to see them split it. I think that's as even of a race as you could possibly get. Mm-hmm. I would say the one thing slight that would favor Allen if you were to go that direction, and frankly, I probably would have picked Lamar, but I'm real close on it as well. I think Lamar has more around him this year, namely Henry, and if you look at Pro Bowls and All Pros, the Ravens have a lot more than the Bills. Not that he's got a terrible supporting cast, but both these guys have limited mistakes so much better. And Allen's an amazing case in point just of quarterbacks. And I understand he's an outlier. When he came in the league, he was a wild stallion that was extremely inaccurate. And even when he became a superstar, all of us, rightfully so, because he deserved it, dismissed, that sack, that interception was a bad decision, but he makes 3 plays to make up for it. Now there's like no negatives. The guy has no sacks, no turnovers. What more do you want from him?
Pretty phenomenal season by both those guys. And even if you, and that's where it gets difficult because, you see everywhere and they put the list of the stats down. And aside from like rushing touchdowns and a couple other things, Lamar had a better year statistically, but this was supposed to be the down year for Josh Allen. They took away a lot of his, they took away Stephon Diggs. They took away a lot from him, and he was dealing with a rookie quarterback or rookie receiver as his number one and an injured tight end. And then they brought in Amari Cooper. It's still, the supporting cast wasn't quite as good. So the level of difficulty a little higher for Josh Allen is I think why he won the award and why I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Really good year. And then Saquon was up there as well. Joe Burrow was up there as well, as expected, but distant third and fourth to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson this year.
Yep.
I'm going to run through some of these awards, and if you have any big problems with them or anything you want to add, let me know.
I thought they were pretty chalky all in all, but yeah.
AP Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell. Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year. Comeback Player of the Year is the worst award.
It's so dumb. Right?
The players themselves don't even want it, Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. It's a nice way to give the, non-quarterbacks an award on the offensive side of the ball, and it's kind of because the MVP has become the quarterback award. Interesting one here. Return to the cornerback. Patrick Surtain the second gets Defensive Player of the Year. Rookie of the Year, chalky. We expected Jaden Daniels on offense, Jared Verse on defense to get those awards. And Walter Payton Man of the Year, Eric Armstead, Jacksonville Jaguars defensive lineman there. And I want to pause because I want to get into the Hall of Fame class because I know you have bigger opinions.
Yeah, I do.
Class. I do want to say Eric Armstead, congratulations to him. He was up for this award every year as a San Francisco 49er. It's kind of a bummer that he didn't get it while he was a member of the 49ers. He finally won the award as a member now of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's done a lot of work locally. He's a Sacramento, California guy, and then played, close to home with the San Francisco 49ers. And, he's been doing good work in the community for a long time and has been up for this award for a long time. So it's really cool to see him win it.
I'm glad you gave some insight on that too, because the players in the league think that's as prestigious of award as there really is. Cam Hayward won it here locally last year, and I really opened my eyes to what the rest of the league views of those players and how serious they take their nominees from each and every team. So good for Armstead. I always think he's been a good player too, which helps. They never give it to bad players too. So that's cool. My last little nuggets on the awards are, I think it's such a testament to what a season Barkley had as Offensive Player of the Year when we don't even consider Jamar Chase, who won the Triple Crown. You don't even consider him,
Yeah, and, well, he did get the FedEx Air and Ground.
Okay, whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Another made up award with a sponsor attached to it. So,
exactly. Yeah.
Some love. And I think he was fifth in the voting for MVP. So he did get some distant votes, fourth, fifth votes.
And then the other one is Defensive Player of the Year to me. It's kind of like you mentioned you kind of insinuated, Lamar and Allen had a better year than Lamar did last year. Well, I think most defensive MVPs had a better year than the candidates this year. And that's not like, oh, you got it by default, you stink. I mean, but Surtain would have got my vote too, but it wasn't a real strong group.
It has to work out for a corner to get it. He has to obviously have a phenomenal year, and he did, and was deserving of the award. But there can't be a guy that has some ridiculous statistically, 20 sack season, something that really stands out in the front seven.
Like Hutchinson was starting to run away with it, then he got hurt. If you look at just Parsons since he returned, he would have won it, but not enough. Garrett and Watt didn't have their usual years. Bosa was a little down statistically. It's usually an edge rusher,
Hall of Fame. Hall of
I have
Fame.
a problem with this.
I thought you might.
Yeah.
So the Hall of Fame class of 2025, and it's a small one. Three guys got in, plus one senior, which is, it's really weird to consider Sterling Sharp a senior, someone that you grew up watching play. But Eric Allen, Jared Allen, and Antonio Gates were the three Hall of Famers, and then Sterling Sharp in the senior edition getting in as well. So 4 members of the 2025 Hall of Fame class. I think one of the big snubs that a lot of people are talking about is Mike Holmgren.
I'll make it quick because we have a whole Super Bowl to cover, but this was also a weak class. When they don't put 5 in, it really screams that, man, we don't think that there's enough guys deserve it. Because I think every guy that gets in has to get like 80% of the votes, and you end up with 78, you don't get in. It's something like that. It's close. It's a weird process in terms of how they actually elect you. First, the positive to me, and I take the Hall of Fame thing pretty seriously. I'm glad Eli and Vinatieri didn't get in. I've been kind of standing on the table against both, especially Vinatieri. I thought for sure they both would get in a weak class, and I'm happy they didn't. That doesn't mean they won't forever. So be it. I've said my piece on those guys. I always hate saying you're not good enough for the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's the ugliest girl to beauty pageants type of thing, But for Kuechly not to go, I thought was bonkers. And frankly, I think both the Allens are Hall of very good. I mean, I think it really waters it down when you see those guys get in. Kuechly to me was a no-brainer. they screwed Gates last year because they didn't want to make him a first ballot. At least they made that right.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm fine with Holmgren. Holmgren, I think, would have been a great choice.
Yeah, Kuechly and Holmgren were the two that I think there was the most outrage on the internet about those two guys not getting in. And yeah, Kuechly for sure deserves to be in before either of the Allens. And so that was quite a bit surprising for me. And maybe it's politics as far as, when guys get in, first ballot, not first ballot. Eli's going to get in, but I like that they made him wait a little bit. But yeah, to be honest with you,
maybe we could talk about this next week, but Eli's 500 as a starter. He led the league in interceptions like 4 or 5 years. I mean, like, he was never a top 5 player, but we can talk about it later. I mean, that's another day for that.
With quarterbacks, and he's got a couple of those. And, to be honest with you, who's got the best case for the Hall of Fame is Steve Spagnuolo, who's defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, who's probably the most important piece of those Eli Manning championships with the New York Giants as well. So let's get into, or at least one of those for sure. Let's get into the Super Bowl. Steve Spagnuolo's team, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. Preview, make our picks, and take a look at some prop bets as well for Super Bowl 59 Sunday next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. What are some of your relationship green lights? We often hear about green flags. We often hear about red flags we should avoid. But what if we focus more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody that green flag energy yourself, whether you're dating, married, building a relationship, or just working on yourself. Therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills, which is so important. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. So discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. Get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Super Bowl 59, it's Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I want to start with when the Kansas City Chiefs have the ball, Matt, because I think
this side might be more interesting.
I think it's for me, I think I know what's going to happen when the Chiefs have the ball more than I know what's going to happen when the Eagles have the ball. When the Eagles have the ball, I think it might decide the game, because I know what Vic Fangio is going to try to do, which is, I don't know what exactly he's going to call. I don't know when he's going to call his blitzes. I don't know, exactly how he's going to have his coverages versus I don't know, what the percentage of man versus zone is going to be exactly. I know how he likes to run his defense, though. And I know that Patrick Mahomes is okay with doing the thing that can eventually beat a Vic Fangio defense, which is stay the course, take what he gives you, and don't get crazy. And as it's fascinating actually with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in that offense, because you think of Patrick Mahomes and the throws he can make and the off platform stuff, and he's really become a dink and dunk quarterback. He's become like Drew Brees efficient guy, and then can kind of sprinkle in the other stuff when it's needed, when it's called for, in those late game, third downs, and he can still make big plays happen if it's there. But he's so good at just taking what the defense gives you, and that's one of the ways you can beat a Vic Fangio defense. But you have to be patient, and you have to be willing to take that little 3-4 yard pass, the quick little dump off. Whatever he is giving you, you have to take it. And Patrick Mahomes is so good at that. And that's why I think on the other side of the ball is fascinating, because if Patrick Mahomes just waits out the Eagles, will the Eagles make that big mistake against Steve Spagnuolo's defensive unit?
I think we see this very similarly. And to break it down a little more X's and O's-ish, you give Andy Reid 2 weeks to prepare. He's going to look at this thing like, obviously, what am I worried about? Joe Thuney's a great guard, but the pairing of Thuney and Taylor are below average tackles. And I've been stealing this joke all week too. Caliendo, the left guard, he's been impersonating a good guard, but he is not a good guard.
Right. Yeah.
So Humphrey is going to have to help him against Milton Williams, who's about to become a very, very rich man. Thus, you get Jalen Carter against Trey Smith, the right guard. And I don't really care what right guard it is. Smith's really going to be about to become really rich too, but Carter is going to be a problem. So I think any long developing pass play is going to be problematic. I think running the football against the Eagles is going to be problematic. You mentioned Spags. I think it's safe to say these are two of the best 3 or 4 defensive coordinators in the league with 2 weeks to prepare. I could see the first quarter, first half being very low on scoring, but kind of like you were saying, and I guess kind of taking it to another level. If I'm Reid, I'm not running Pacheco and Hunt into Carter and Bond and Jordan Davis and Milton Williams. I'm saying I got the legend here. Pat, you're throwing it like every snap. And they might be behind the line of scrimmage. They might be Xavier Worthy on a 1-yard crosser. It might be Travis Kelce, 4 yards field, turns around against zone. But I am not taking it out of his hands. I think he might set obscene number of pass attempts, and the ADOT might be extremely low.
Yeah, and it's not going to be about making big plays and how good the Eagles cover. It's going to be how good the Eagles defensive backs tackle.
And they're good at it. I mean, they're going to be long, sustained drives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think KC, to your point, that's just their game, man. I mean, it's I saw some stats during this 6-year run where they're this dynasty. Chiefs games have the fewest number of possessions out of all 32 teams during that stretch. You know, they held death by 1,000 paper cut you. We talked about how Allen transformed as a player. That's not who Mahomes was at all coming out of Texas Tech. And I'm just going to win. I'm going to Brady you to death, and I am more patient, and I'm not going to make the mistake. And yeah, okay, you tackle the catch, but on 3rd and 6, we get 7 every time anyway, you know, and maybe I have to scramble a little more. Maybe I take more hits, but I am having the ball in his hands all the time if I'm Andy
Reid. Which is what leads me to the other side of the ball when the Eagles have the ball against the Chiefs defense, because this is going to tell the whole story. Because will the Eagles move the ball? Will they be able to do what they've done to everybody else on the ground and create space for Saquon Barkley to make plays? And will they get down the field? Will they hit big home runs? Will they get down the field and score on the Chiefs to force Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs into potentially making a mistake because they need to play catch up? Because Patrick Mahomes has thrown interceptions in the Super Bowl, and he has got his team back every single time when he needed to, just about. But will the Eagles make mistakes and get behind and then have to throw out of that, which is not what they want to do? Or will they be able to score and keep up with the Chiefs and put the pressure on the Chiefs to make that mistakes? Because to me, it's all about who makes the mistakes, and who makes the mistakes first is going to be the biggest factor in this game. It's one of the reasons I like the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think Spags is going to have a really good game plan. He's going to do everything he can to take away what the Eagles do best, and then try to force Jalen Hurts into some awkward 3rd down situations and then get pressure on him. And I do have one stat here against pressure that I want to bring up, because it's a pretty telling one. And if the game goes that way for the Philadelphia Eagles offense, and they're able to stop the run, and they're able to meet that front with the Philadelphia Eagles, because I've talked many times about how, Saquon Barkley, not that he's overrated or anything like that, but, the Saquon Barkley big plays and the runs is the result of how good the Eagles are up front. So we see the result, and we give, all the flowers to Saquon Barkley, but it's that offensive line. It's the leading the league by far in yards before contact. And we even saw in that big run in the NFC Championship game, right? That was like 60-yard touchdown, but he wasn't touched until he was 12 yards down the field. And that is the Philadelphia Eagles right there, because you get one of the most dynamic running backs in the league and then give him a 4-yard head start on every single play. You're going to have a huge amount of success in the run game on offense. But when it comes to 3rd downs and it comes to pressure, Jalen Hurts, this stat from Warren Sharp, it's a phenomenal one. Jalen Hurts splits when pressured versus when clean are insane. Out of 37 quarterbacks that qualify, when pressured, Jalen Hurts is number 37 out of 37 quarterbacks in success rate when pressured. He's last, 37 out of 37 again in EPA per attempt. He's 33 out of 37 quarterbacks in sack rate when pressured, and he's 32 out of 37 quarterbacks in yards per attempt. And obviously, this is one of the things that Spagnuolo is so good at, using your rules as an offense against you, getting free rushers. And if that's the ball game, if Steve Spagnuolo's Chiefs defense can slow down the run or even stop the Philadelphia Eagles run game.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this before, but I think we both see this game very similarly, because that's exactly where I was going to go too. And with all respect to Hurts, he played one of his best games in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs not long ago. Played maybe his best game of the season 2 weeks ago in the championship game. But that is a concern. And I'm sure selective blitzing, and nobody does it better with the unorthodox blitzes, corner blitzes, linebacker blitzes too. I don't think the Chiefs have as big of an advantage with their D-line against that Eagles front, because this Eagles front's awesome, but Chris Jones is still going to cause problems. And to me, that's a massive key. Is the Eagles in the playoffs are plus 10 in turnover differential and have had great fumble luck. And that's not why they're there. They've caused that. They've earned it. But I bet that comes back to the mean a little bit in a game like this. They're not going to be plus 3 in turnover differential, and every time the ball hits the ground, it's not going to bounce to them, And, when you see a lot of man, they're going to go to A.J. Brown more so. And Barkley can still get free, and they can still create big plays against blitz or on the ground. But Spags versus Hurts compared to Fangio versus Mahomes is night and day, even though all four are very good. That's why it's a great matchup. You know what I mean? That's not a knock on Fangio
And the Eagles aren't going to dominate up front like they did in some other weeks against the Chiefs, but they still do have to win up front if they're going to win this game. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. Next, let's make our official picks for Super Bowl 59.
KC also has a small special teams advantage. And what we think is a tight game, their kicker's better, and they've been better in all phases of special teams, basically.
The margins, special teams.
Small things,
a big play like that could absolutely swing this thing in a game where the line is 1.5 points. So who are we going to pick? And let's look at FanDuel and some of the Super Bowl 59 props as well next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Tons of prop bets. We're going to talk about some of those props that we like right now. Predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, even betting on the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app is super easy to navigate, super easy to use, plus knowing that you can place just a $5 bet and potentially win that first $5 bet and get $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl. So that's just the icing on the cake. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL and official partner of Super Bowl 59. If you want to play DFS, the big game is almost here. We're almost there, almost to Sunday, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. Over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded. Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. And here's how it works with Prize Picks. You pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. The more you get, the more it multiplies your cash winnings. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. You pair that with just one more correct pick, and you are already cashing out. Check the promos tab to tail any of the super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, let's make our official pick first, and then we'll get to some of these props and some fun ones and some interesting ones. And I've got some ideas about potentially MVP as well for Super Bowl 59. But let's start with who we think is going to win this game. Who you got? Right now, the Chiefs are favored by 1.5 points.
Okay. I'm taking the Chiefs to win 24-23. I expect an excellent Super Bowl. And I was not going to bring this up, but here we go.
Okay.
In the course of a human's lifetime, I think we see a handful of human beings that walk the planet with us that are truly, truly elite at what they do. That they made a deal with the devil, so to say. You know, like they're not great. They're the very, very best. And I think Mahomes is one of those. You know, I think he made a deal with the devil. And like Ali or Gretzky or whoever, I mean, like the best of the best. And I would never bet against him or Reid on a 2-week stretch. Now, here's why I almost hesitated. Because I think another human being on the Kansas City side of things, Taylor Swift, also made a deal with the devil. And is the Beatles, Elvis, Michael Jackson all rolled into one. And I'm never betting against those people. They have two of the 10 I might see in my lifetime in any walk of life on their sidelines. I'm betting on them and when the chips are down, no matter what. And I'm not a religious man or anything of the sort. But special people win special things. And I know she's not playing. I get that. But I'm kind of making a joke. But I'm not betting against the Chiefs.
It's they got some magic. And I'm not betting against the Chiefs either. I'm giving up the points and I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game by a field goal at least. Is the way I think this game's going to go. I think it could be a good game. I think it could be a close game. By the way, injury report. Nobody on it, especially for the Kansas City Chiefs and anybody we are worried about. One of the big things for the Eagles, which would have really skewed this thing for me, was some of their offensive linemen and getting Chris Jones blocked and being able to win and have that advantage that you do have potentially up front with their amazing offensive line for the Eagles. Guys like Landon Dickerson fully participating in practice, so they're good to go there. Zach Bond had a growing; he's fully participated. Even Jalen Carter kind of popped up with an illness, but he was back fully participating in practice on Thursday as well. So injury report essentially a non-factor in this game.
Yeah, I was a little worried about that, and I 99% trust the injury reports, but I'm hoping Dickerson isn't bouncing between guard and center and limping around or any of that stuff. But that's a nice thing about having the 2 weeks off is you get your best players on the field.
As many healthy players out there as possible. Okay, well, if it goes the way we think, then what's the best odds for Super Bowl MVP? The highest odds to win the MVP are Patrick Mahomes, as it should be. Second is Saquon Barkley, which tells me smart money at plus 350 might be Jalen Hurts, just because he's the other quarterback in this game. And if the Eagles win the game, I don't like betting on wide receivers for MVP for a game like this, because if the wide receiver has a good game, that usually means the quarterback has a good game. So that's going to trump, and the quarterback is going to end up getting that MVP award. So for me, smart money is either on Jalen Hurts potentially, just because you get the quarterback odds, and they're less than even the running back odds in Saquon Barkley. But I don't love that one. I might go with a defensive player in this one.
I was leaning that way too, but I kind of learned my lesson when the Rams won the Super Bowl. Like, I put a decent buck on Aaron Donald to win that MVP, and I still believe he should have, but Kupp got it.
Right.
I would consider Chris Jones, Jalen Carter. I mean, these guys are great, great players, but no one ever votes for them. Even if they deserve it, they might not get it. I mean, can anyone but Mahomes win it if the Chiefs win?
It's a great example too of not only did Aaron Donald not get it, but it was Kupp.
Right. It wasn't even like Stafford
out the window. I mean, it's still a rarity for a non-quarterback on offense to get it. But how about a super dark horse here? Because I'm with you, Jalen Carter, Chris Jones. You catch a bunch of sacks, maybe you force a fumble. What about a sneaky one like Cooper DeJean? What if he has like a big punt return and then picks off Patrick Mahomes in a big moment? Cooper DeJean at 200-1. I think
throw $1 on it, sure. Like some of those long shots. I mean,
big long shot dark horse pick.
One thing to back that up, I mean, really during this last month and a half, the Eagles have become an exclusive nickel defense. I mean, he's their nickel. He never comes off the field anymore because they just love him. And
he's a really good player. And when you're in the middle of the field, maybe a ball bounces off Travis Kelce's hands, right? And you're in the thick of the action.
Maybe he's the Kelce follow guy for this one, and they switch things up and he shut him down. Is Kelce the only other Chief that could maybe win it, though? I mean, if we think this is his last game and he ends up with 2 touchdowns and 95 yards or something, hugging Taylor at the end,
Would you? I mean, Harrison Butker, could it be a field goal game? Maybe. But probably not. Yeah, Mahomes, Kelce, and maybe Chris Jones as your long shot.
I mean, I'm leaning towards the under, so a defensive player. I am on the under, so I do think a defensive player could get it, but I just don't think they'll get the votes. Barkley's an interesting one because I know we're going to talk props a little bit here real quick. I was hanging with my buds last night, and I guess the Super Bowl record for rushing yards is like, I'm a little off, but it's like 162 yards. And it pays like 600 or pays like 6-1 for Barkley to break the record. And frankly, he only has to get free once or twice maybe to break it.
Right. And it's fascinating because at the over-under on rushing yards, I think is 115, which is really high normally. But it doesn't even seem that high for Saquon Barkley with what he's been doing this year. I tend
if he sets the Super Bowl record, he'll probably get MVP.
I tend to think the focus is going to be to shut him down. So it might be a little bit of a dud is for Saquon Barkley. But if he has a big game, obviously it's one of the paths to win for. So Saquon's still not a bad bet. Yeah. Because he pays better than Mahomes does at least. And he would get votes too.
Right.
People would expect it and get him votes. And it would break the tie between Saquon and some other player that's maybe non-quarterback just because of the name value.
The backward hurdles over somebody and some kind of crazy highlight you'll never forget in your life.
Speaking of the two of the guys we brought up so far, Saquon Barkley and Cooper DeJean, this is a fascinating one. Over under on how many times the word birthday will be said during the telecast. This is one of my favorite weird deep props.
Did you say there's 2 guys that have a birthday on the Super Bowl?
Saquon Barkley's 28th birthday Sunday, and it's Cooper DeJean's 22nd birthday on Sunday. 1.5 number. I'm smashing the over on how many
over.
You mentioned that. Yeah.
Way over. Happy birthday. Oh, yeah. Those guys will be in the field the whole time. That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's money in the bank right there.
Yeah. I'm putting the mortgage on it.
A couple of other ones, I don't have the numbers, but I was, just kind of to reiterate how I was speaking before, I'm over on Mahomes attempts, completions. I'm under on KC rushing yards. I'm over on total sacks. I mean, I think the blitzes and the Eagles' advantage is going to lead to sacks. I'm over on some goofy things along those lines too, like P. Ryan catches and Noah Gray catches where you only need like 1 or 2, just because I think they'll be on the field and they'll throw a ton. And that's about it in the prop world for me. There's a lot of that kind of stuff.
What about the over under on the overall game? 48.5 points.
I'm at 24-23, and I didn't know the over under when I said that, but I think this is an under game. I think the first half will be low scoring, defensive coordinator dominated, and great offenses start to figure it out late, especially great quarterbacks like Mahomes. So I don't know that it'll be a whopping under. I don't know that this will be a Belichick Super Bowl or anything like that, but I could see under in the first half might be my favorite bet, actually.
I like that.
Think about it. Yeah.
Feeling out process, a slow play, and then once there's a big score, a quick score, a big turnover, that's when the game will really start.
I can see that. Yeah. I can see, again, Eagles run the ball, long drives, a lot of controlled passing, not a lot of big explosives, clock ticking down in the first half, and not a ton of points early.
We go Super Bowl 59. We will be back, of course, post game to break it all down on Monday. Let us know what you think. Get involved in next week's mailbag as well. Hit us up at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Drop a comment on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there. Matt and I back Monday right here. Peacock and Williamson.